Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. We got a ton of your submissions this week, all about personal finance, so we know that's something you guys are really interested in.
For sure. And to help us get through all the great material you guys sent in,
Yeah?
we're going to be focusing on this guide from Intentional Accounting called Managing Personal Finances, Top Financial Planning Tips for Individuals and Families.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was actually looking at that earlier today, and it seems like a really solid resource.
Definitely.
Lots to unpack there, and I think one of the things that they start off with that I think is interesting is talking about like setting clear financial goals, which
Yeah.
I feel like that gets talked about a lot, and it can kind of sound like really basic. But I think where they really nail it is the why.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's not just about like, oh, I want to be rich someday.
Yeah.
It's really about like
Yeah.
giving your financial plan like a real purpose and direction. And a great example of that is, if you have a goal of, say buying a home in 5 years, well, then every financial decision you make like takes on new meaning, whether it's saving or spending. You're thinking, okay, is this going to get me closer to that goal of buying a home?
Totally. It's like you have a roadmap now instead of just wandering around aimlessly.
Exactly.
So now, intentional accounting also talks about budgeting. I'm curious what your take is. I know for a lot of people, budgeting can sound
Oh, yeah.
kind of scary or restrictive.
Mm.
But intentional accounting seems to have a slightly different approach.
Well, I think what's refreshing about their approach is that they don't frame budgeting as like this restrictive thing, like you're depriving yourself. It's more about just understanding where your money is actually going, which can be surprisingly insightful, just like the act of, tracking your spending.
It's funny they talk about that. The psychological effect of like just writing things down can make you more mindful of your spending. Would you say that's true for you?
Oh, absolutely. There's a ton of research that backs that up.
Yeah.
It's just about creating awareness. And when you're more aware of where your money's going, you naturally start to make different choices.
Yeah.
Even without, trying to force yourself to change, you just see, oh, wow, I'm spending like way more on takeout coffee than I thought.
Right. And then you can decide, hey, is that something I want to keep doing, or is there a way I can adjust that a little bit? So
Exactly.
Okay, so another key thing that intentional accounting brings up is the emergency fund. They even compare it to having a financial bat signal, which I have to admit,
Okay.
when I look at my account balance, sometimes it doesn't really feel quite that heroic.
Uh-huh. I hear you on that.
But it is, I guess, that sense of security, knowing that if something comes up, you're prepared for it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, life, likes to throw those curveballs, and unexpected expenses, car repairs, medical bills, things like that. An emergency fund helps you navigate those situations, without totally derailing your long-term financial goals.
Yeah. And they actually recommend having like 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved up. Is there a reason for that number, or did they just kind of pull that out of thin air?
It's not random. It's actually based on like the average amount of time it takes people to kind of recover from a financial setback, like if you were to lose your job or something.
Oh,
Having that cushion gives you some breathing room to kind of, figure things out without panicking about like rent or putting food on the table.
totally. Okay, so speaking of financial setbacks, let's talk about debt,
Oh, yeah.
especially the high interest kind that could really weigh you down. Intentional accounting talks about 2 pretty popular methods for tackling debt: the debt snowball and the debt avalanche. Have you heard of these?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, and what's your take on them?
I think both have their merits.
Okay.
The debt snowball, the one focuses on like paying off your smallest debts first, regardless of the interest rate.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you get that satisfaction of checking something off your list, which can create some real momentum. The other one, the debt avalanche, that focuses on paying down the debts with the highest interest rates first. So it's more financially efficient in the long run, but it might take a little bit longer to see those, those big wins.
So it's kind of like, what motivates you more? Is it that feeling of accomplishment
Exactly.
from those quick wins, or is it like minimizing the overall interest you're putting in the long run?
It's really interesting how personal finance is so intertwined with our psychology.
I know it is, and I think that's what makes it so fascinating and sometimes so challenging. Okay, so how about we shift gears a little bit and talk about something a little bit more exciting?
Okay, sure.
Investing and growing your money. Now, I know this can be intimidating for a lot of people, but intentional accounting actually breaks down some of these key concepts in a way that's really approachable.
Definitely.
So what stood out to you in terms of their advice on investing?
Well, they really emphasize the importance of diversification, which makes total sense, right? It's about not putting all your eggs in one basket. spreading your investments across different asset classes to manage risk.
Yeah, totally. And I'm curious from your perspective, how would you approach diversification? Like considering your own goals and your own risk tolerance?
Well, that's a great question. I think for me, it would be about,
Yeah. Diversification.
yeah.
I feel like that's something that you hear all the time, but it's actually really important.
Yeah, totally. Like I was reading this article the other day about this guy who put all his money in like one stock,
Oh, no.
and then the company like tanked and he lost everything.
Oh, my gosh.
So yeah, diversification is key.
It's a good reminder. I mean, it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of like a particular investment or a hot stock tip or something. But
Yeah, for sure.
you got to remember to spread the risk a little bit.
Spread the risk for
Yeah.
sure.
So speaking of investing, intentional accounting also talks about these things called tax-advantaged accounts,
Yeah.
like IRAs and 401ks.
Mhm.
For those who might not be familiar, could you just give us like a super quick rundown of what those are and why they're so important?
Sure. So basically, they're just accounts that offer tax benefits. So either you reduce your current tax bill or you defer paying taxes until retirement,
Okay,
which can be a huge advantage.
that makes sense.
And what's really cool is that many employers offer like matching contributions to 401ks.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like free money on top of your savings.
Free monies. Who doesn't love that? Okay, so intentional accounting, they don't shy away from the importance of starting early when it comes to investing.
Right.
We touched on this a little bit earlier, but it's worth reiterating, right? The magic of compound interest.
Oh, absolutely. Compound interest is like the snowball rolling downhill, picking up more snow as it goes, or in this case, earnings.
Yeah.
The earlier you start, even if it's with small contributions, the more time your money has to grow exponentially.
So you're telling me that I should have started saving when I was like 5?
Well, it's never too late to start.
Okay, good. That makes me feel a little bit better.
The key is just to start now.
Yeah, okay. So beyond just the numbers,
Mhm.
intentional accounting also talks about mindset. What are your thoughts on their advice to live below your means? Because I feel like that phrase gets kind of a bad rap sometimes, like it means depriving yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a misconception for sure. It's not about, living a life of scarcity. It's more about being intentional about where your money goes.
Right.
Aligning your spending with your values and priorities instead of like trying to keep up with the Joneses or whatever.
So it's not about saying no to everything. It's about like really asking yourself, does this purchase actually align with what I care about and what my goals are?
Exactly.
Now, intentional accounting also goes beyond just the usual advice and dives into some less obvious aspects of financial planning
Yeah.
that I think are often overlooked. What stood out to you in that regard?
Well, they actually talked quite a bit about the importance of tax efficiency, which is something that most people don't think about until, tax season rolls around.
Yeah, like April 14th or whatever.
Right, exactly. But
Yeah.
like being mindful of the tax implications of your financial decisions throughout the year, that can make a huge difference in the long run.
It's like having a secret weapon in your financial arsenal or something. So do you have any tips for how someone could become more tax efficient? Maybe some like low-hanging fruit they could tackle?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, simple things like understanding eligible deductions and credits or strategically timing certain financial moves, can have a big impact.
Mhm.
For example, if you're planning a large charitable donation, you could like bunch several years worth of donations into a single year.
Okay.
And that might allow you to itemize your deductions and potentially lower your overall tax liability.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about saving, we've talked about investing, we've talked about being tax efficient, but intentional accounting also reminds us that financial planning is not a one-time thing, it's a journey.
Absolutely. It's like a marathon, not a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
There are going to be bumps in the road, there are going to be challenges and setbacks, but the key is just to stay committed to the process and adjust your plan as needed.
Yeah, and I think that's where the power of continuous learning comes in. Like the financial landscape is constantly evolving, new products and strategies and regulations and all that.
All the time, yeah.
So like staying informed and adapting to those changes, I feel like that's so crucial for long-term success.
Yeah, for sure. It's about being curious, asking questions, seeking out resources that can help you make informed decisions. There are so many great books and podcasts.
I know, so many resources out there.
And online courses available now.
And of course, there's always the option of seeking guidance from a financial advisor.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they can provide personalized advice,
Yeah,
help you navigate those really complex situations, and like hold you accountable to your goals.
definitely.
So it's really about finding what works best for you, whether it's like DIY learning or seeking expert guidance or a combination of both.
Yeah, for sure.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this segment. from tax efficiency and retirement planning to like the importance of staying disciplined and embracing continuous learning. I think all these insights point to one central theme, which is that financial planning is not just like setting it and forgetting it.
Right.
It's this proactive, ongoing process that requires knowledge, intentionality,
Right.
and a commitment to building healthy financial habits.
It's not about getting rich quick or following some magic formula. It's about making informed choices that align with your values and your goals and building a solid foundation for a secure and fulfilling financial future.
Okay, so I feel like we've given our listeners a lot to think about,
Yeah, we have.
but our deep dive into intentional accounting's wisdom isn't over yet.
That's right.
In the final part, we're going to bring all these insights together and explore how you can actually put this knowledge into action, so stay tuned. All right, so we're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into Intentional Accounting's Guide to Personal Finance.
And I feel like we've really uncovered some gems, haven't we?
We have, I mean, we've talked about everything from like setting goals and making a budget to like the nitty-gritty of investing and taxes.
Yeah. Yeah, even like those less talked about things like, staying disciplined and always learning new stuff.
It's been a whirlwind, but now I think the real question is, how does all of this apply to you, our listener?
Yeah. What really stuck with you?
Was there like a particular tip that sparked an idea or maybe something you hadn't really thought about before?
I know for me, like that whole thing about compound interest and how starting early, even with just a little bit of money, can make a huge difference down the road that really hit home.
Yeah, that's a powerful concept for sure. Or maybe it was intentional accounting's approach to budgeting, focusing on awareness and being intentional rather than feeling restricted.
Right. Or even realizing that it's okay to ask for help, like talking to a financial advisor.
That can be a game changer sometimes. I think the cool thing about personal finance is that it really is personal.
Yeah, totally.
What works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly.
So it's all about finding what aligns with your values, your goals, and like your own unique situation.
Yeah, it's like intentional accounting gives you this great framework.
But then you get to kind of personalize it and make it your own.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with one question. What's one thing you can do today based on what we've talked about?
Yeah, even if it's something small, what's one action step you can take?
Maybe you'll finally sit down and create a budget, or like revisit your current budget with fresh eyes.
Or maybe you'll set up that automatic investment deposit, even if it's just a small amount to start.
Or it could be something like scheduling a meeting with a financial advisor, or finally tackling that credit card debt that's been stressing you out.
The point is, even small actions, when you do them consistently, can have a big impact over time.
Totally. And remember, it's not about being perfect, it's about progress.
Exactly.
Financial planning is a marathon, not a sprint, so there will be ups and downs and challenges.
Oh, for sure.
But the key is to just stay committed to the process and keep moving forward.
Yeah, keep learning and growing and working towards those financial goals. Well, we hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights and some actionable steps to like level up your financial well-being.
If you want even more tips and strategies from Intentional Accounting, definitely go check out their full article on their website.
Yeah, it's a great resource.
It really is.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of personal finance. And until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.